Welcome to a very special episode of the Data Secrets podcast. This is our very first in real life episode that we shot in San Francisco at Dreamforce 2025 with my good friend Chris Williams, who's a Tableau Ambassador, and he was just on stage that morning at the Tableau keynote, and he got interviewed by the CMO of Tableau. He did such an awesome job. And just wanted to just a couple guys talking about all things Salesforce, Dreamforce, Tableau Next. Hope you enjoy the conversation, and we'll jump right in. Your data has secrets. Secrets that could change everything if you only knew where to look. Welcome to the Data Secrets podcast.
Hey man, so what are you getting out of Dreamforce this week?
What am I getting out of Dreamforce?
Yeah, what do you look to build off of from this week here?
Yeah, so our why for coming to Dreamforce is, so Salesforce bought Tableau a couple of years ago, and we love Tableau obviously, and and so we see it as an investment in the kind of the future ecosystem that Salesforce is creating by pulling Tableau into the Salesforce world.
Right.
And so what they've been doing kind of systematically over the past couple of years is taking the best of Tableau Classic, now they're calling it,
right,
and putting it into Salesforce where, what'd they say, like 490 of Fortune 500 companies are on Salesforce, or some stupid number like that, right?
It's insane.
And so they just have this great distribution with Salesforce, and Tableau's mission to help people see and understand their data, injecting that into the Salesforce culture. But now they've taken it a step further, right? With Tableau Next and agents and Agentforce and all this stuff. Which I'm excited about. I know you're excited about it. And so you go from like data to insight, and then insight to action, right? What are you excited about?
Well, it was really good to see this morning during the Tableau keynote about how that semantic model can be reused across all levels of Tableau. So Tableau Classic, you've got Tableau Cloud, you've got Tableau Next. Can all operate off the same semantic model. Ultimately, you're going to have the same sort of AI experience across all those brands. And this is what we've been looking for from Salesforce in Tableau. Yeah. Upon the acquisition, we wanted to be sure and understand what their long-term vision is. And I think it's coming into fruition now. Having all that interact with Slack is also a big bonus with Teams on the way. So understanding and being able to have self-service analytics across all personas for everybody. Anybody can go in there and take a look at their data, visualize it, and make some decisions off it.
Yeah, explain because not everybody people in our world know what semantic model is, and why is semantic so important, and how would you explain it to maybe somebody who's not a data person?
Well, think of the semantic model as how all these objects interact with one another. So if you have database tables, it's a matter about how these database tables relate to one another. And ultimately, as you're putting these pieces together, think of it as a puzzle. A puzzle is only really meaningful when it's complete. All of these pieces all interlock with one another. The completed puzzle is actually what I would call your semantic model, because you understand what the borders are, what's happening in the interior, and then on the whole, what you're seeing is a complete story being told. Because when you're done with your puzzle, you get the big picture. And it's exactly the same way that we deal with when we're dealing with analytics. You build a model so that a picture can be seen. So we're building the same thing. How's that?
Pretty good. I normally, the way I really like the puzzle metaphor. The thing that the way I've explained it is, it's the meaning layer.
Yeah.
Right. It's the kind of the interpreter, and what does this measure mean? Is good, up is good, down is bad, that whole thing. And the reason why it's so important is because AI, like any sort of LLM, like it must first like understand what the data is.
Yeah, I mean, what you're trying to get your AI engine to understand is, what are you asking the questions about? That's why the model is so important. And you want to have a robust model, but you don't want to have a model that's just flooded with useless information, because then you're going to be asking questions about nothingness. We don't want that. But you want a focused collection of everything that you care about data-wise, whether that be KPIs, whether that be KPIs within certain dimensions. All of that just needs to be in your semantic model and have a relationship, so that you can not just ask one question, but ask the secondary and the tertiary question. That's when you get the supporting argument for whatever your thesis is for what your data is telling you.
Yeah. For the people who did not attend Dreamforce or may have missed the Tableau keynote, our friend Chris Williams here was on the stage representing the DataFam. I'm just curious, so that was 3 hours ago. How you feel? Like how?
Oh, I'm still on cloud nine, man.
Yeah.
It's the DataFam. For those who are not familiar with Tableau or the concept of what that community offers, the DataFam is what everybody strives for when it comes to not just analytics, but just inclusion altogether. The DataFam really has invited me in, showed me a lot more about what analytics means and how to truly translate numbers into a story. It's not just a dashboard. The dashboard should tell you something, and it should lead you to do something else. So one of the things I wanted to make sure was clear through keynote today was that we have a community of willing and able, helpful individuals and professionals to help you get started, to help you keep going. And then obviously when you're off and running and you're running the race with everybody else, help somebody else. Turn around, give it back. Make sure you mentor, make sure you teach, make sure you share the wealth, because that sets the stage for the next generation of data awesomeness to come follow us. Because we need more in this industry.
Awesome. Yeah, it was so fun to see you up there, and you did great.
Well, that's great. Well, I know
knocked it out of the park.
You're part of this family. You're part of my development as a professional, as a person. So, thank you for your part in my journey, because
thank you, man.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you, man.
Absolutely, appreciate you.
So this is your on-the-road version of the Data Secrets podcast with Chris Williams. I am curious. Okay, so real quick. So on the Data Secrets podcast, the whole point is that secrets live in your data, and our job is to uncover those secrets and not just get the insight out of there, but also be able to take action from it. So I'm curious if there's a story, and I'm putting him on the spot right now. We did zero preparation for today. As you can see, we're in the brain date area of Dreamforce. We got stood up by our brain dates. And so we're like, let's put these brains together. Anyways, so I'm curious. Okay, so one of the things in Data Secrets is just like a story where you found some really important insight in some data, and it led the business that you were supporting to make some better informed decision that made a real impact on the business. Is there a story that comes to mind?
Yeah, I mean, when you're doing your analysis, you have a primary goal usually that you're shooting for.
Yeah.
But everybody knows, if you've been doing any sort of analytics whatsoever, is that you will always come across something else that will draw your attention. And sometimes that second thing that draws your attention should be your primary thing.
Yeah.
So I had an instance where I was doing something for a major fast food company. We had some sensors that were in the refrigerator, and they kept dying.
Okay.
And so they were losing food.
The fridges were dying, or the sensors
fridges were dying.
Okay.
because the sensors were dying.
Ah, okay.
And so instead of analyzing the sensors themselves, we analyzed the company that sold us the sensors and then turned around and figured out that, okay, they sold us some other things where we had some faulty equipment as well. So instead of just trying to diagnose the initial problem, you also have to look at what is the source of that problem and try to figure out what the best way to take a look at that is. And the only way to do that is not make it subjective, you make it objective, because you're using the data to tell you what to do next. Okay. So we use that data to open up the floodgates and try to engage with other companies that sold different materials and different refrigerators.
Yeah.
And then we were able to go ahead and figure out, hey, maybe we should go with this more reliable brand and move vendors. Okay. And then ultimately that saved them a lot of money. It saved that store a lot of money because they were always closed because they had food that was spoiling.
Interesting. So were you able to, because the data, like, was it one of these things where the, sorry, the sensor is like, if it dies, it doesn't tell you that it died, it just would like not be reporting anything? Or
yeah, so I mean, you would have streaming information from the sensors. So when you didn't have that information, you had a gap.
Yeah.
You would then figure out, okay, what's going on?
Yeah.
Why is there a gap? And how long, when did that gap start? What time is it now? So if you could figure out the delta within the time now and when it actually stopped getting data, then you're in a situation where, okay, I've been down for X amount of time. What's going to happen to all my food in that fridge?
Right.
And, you know, it's a lot of money. You're got to get more food, but you also have to make sure that you have a functioning fridge. So we determined that by the difference between how long when we got our last bit of data to when it was discovered that it was down, to really figure out what our average downtime was with this.
Interesting. Is there so one of the segments in the podcast is the data horror story. So this is where everything went wrong, or the data misled you and a terrible decision was made, or production went down and everything. Yeah. So is there a horror story that comes to mind for you?
I don't have a particular horror story. It was more of a uh-oh moment where you're trying to put a story together, and then again you have an absence of data.
Yeah.
And then with an absence of data you create outliers. Then everything gets inflated or deflated depending on what your KPI is. It's just now a matter of, okay, is this real or is this faulty?
Yeah.
And so if it's faulty, then you've got to make that sort of declaration, say, this is not exactly what we should be using.
Yeah.
And so thankfully we had other pieces of data where we had a more stable idea of what numbers we should be getting.
Yeah.
And then we were able to make a better decision before we made a very bad, impactful, negative decision.
Nice.
So we caught it before all hell broke loose.
Yeah, that's good. That's what you want to do, right?
Yeah, yes, sir. Absolutely.
Catch it in UAT.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, this has been really fun. So for anybody out there who you said give back to the next generation, people coming around or coming behind us, or what direction would you point people in right now who are kind of maybe just, they're interested in data, they're interested in Tableau, the ecosystem, where would you point them?
So what I would say is, if you're just getting started in this whole fun ride of data analytics, what I would tell you is that bring every knowledge of everything that you know about your, vertical, whether it be healthcare, whether it be automotive or whatever. Bring all that with you, because all that data knowledge is going to serve you well when you're understanding how all of these data objects and work together.
Yeah.
It's really important, because if you know what you're doing with that particular data set and that type of data, you're going to be just fine. Bring everything with you. Don't have amnesia. I use that a lot. And just make sure that don't overthink the analysis that you already do on a day-to-day basis. You're just putting an actual title to the stuff that you're already doing. If you know how to solve problems, you can do analytics.
I met a girl the other night who grew up in the banking world and like in the branch. And she figured out that her favorite part of her day was doing some of the like reporting stuff at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And she's like, I want to make that my career. And so that business context has served her super well.
Right.
Because all she had to do was, so there's three legs of this stool. There's the business context, there's the technical acumen. So like, can you make the tool do what you want it to?
Exactly, yeah.
And then there's the design component where it's, can I make it beautiful? Can I make it functional? Can I make it intuitive to use? And like from a user experience perspective. So you've already got one of those legs more than likely.
Right.
And it's just a matter of investing in yourself and the other two. So
exactly.
Chris, thank you for this. This has been really special.
It's always an honor, buddy.
Yeah, man.
It's always an honor.
If people want to connect with you, find you on LinkedIn, Chris Williams.
Yeah, find me on LinkedIn. Chris Williams. Yeah, I know it's not the most unique of names, but
he's the only one.
What we'll do is we'll post it. Post a link on when you post this up. We'll post a link to
we'll put it in the link in the description. Don't forget to like and subscribe. This has been a Dreamforce edition of the Data Secrets Podcast. We'll see you. Keep sleuthing.
Take care.